The sun blazed over a quiet American town, its main street lined with diners and weathered signs. At a gas station, cops cuffed an old man, gray beard, faded jacket, eyes sharp as steel. "Move it, old man," an officer snapped. James Carter, 65, didn't blink, didn't argue, just stared ahead like he'd seen this moment before. His silence spooked the cops. They expected protests, not this eerie calm. The charge? Threatening a cocky gym trainer, mid-30s, who claimed James growled, "I know how to end you." Faking a limp, the trainer swore it was military-style menace. Bystanders filmed, whispering, "Crazy old vet." To them, James was just a grumpy has-been, lost in time. Nobody knew this retired Marine sniper had once stopped a warzone crisis with one shot. James lived alone in a rundown trailer on the town's edge, no Wi-Fi, just a tattered flag in the window and boots worn from miles. Neighbors called him weird or "that soldier guy," avoiding his pre-dawn walks. The police report was blunt: James Carter, ex-Marine, misdemeanor threat. His public defender, a frazzled young lawyer named Jake, got nowhere. "Say something, man," Jake pleaded. James' silence hung heavy, like a storm brewing. In the small courthouse, squeezed between a library and a dentist's office stuck in the 90s, the air buzzed with skepticism. The judge, a tired woman in her 50s, eyed James, cuffed and still. Whispers spread, probably PTSD. No one checked his service record. No one asked. But someone was coming, a man with 4 silver stars on his shoulder, ready to shatter this trial's assumptions with a truth too big to ignore. The courthouse smelled of old wood and stale coffee, its ceiling fans creaking lazily. James Carter sat in the defendant's chair, cuffs glinting under fluorescent lights. His face, weathered like desert stone, gave nothing away, no fear, no anger, just a stillness that made the bailiff shift uncomfortably. The gallery buzzed with locals, some curious, others judgmental. "He's the one who scared that trainer," a woman whispered, clutching her purse. The judge, Ms. Harrow, adjusted her glasses, her voice sharp, "Order." The room hushed, but eyes stayed on James. The prosecutor, a slick man named Harper, smirked, ready to paint James as a loose cannon. The charge was simple: misdemeanor threat, a gas station spat gone wrong. But James' silence made it feel bigger, like a secret hung in the air. His lawyer, Jake, shuffled papers nervously, muttering, "You gotta give me something, James." No response. The trainer, Mike, took the stand, neck brace on for show. "He said he'd end me from 800 yards, Mike whined, playing the victim. The jury, retirees, shop clerks, a board teacher, leaned in. Some nodded, others frowned. Harper pounced, "This man's a relic, clinging to a soldier's ego, intimidating honest folks." The room stirred, whispers growing, "Typical vet, unhinged." James didn't blink, his gaze fixed on a flag in the corner, its stars faded but proud. Outside, the town hummed, pickup trucks, kids on bikes, life moving past. No one knew James walked these streets at dawn, boots echoing, or that his trailer held medals he never showed. And no one saw the black SUV rolling in, its occupant a 4-star general, carrying a truth that would silence this courtroom's chatter. The town's gossip mill churned faster than the courthouse's rusty fans. By noon, James Carter was the talk of every diner and barbershop. "Heard he threatened to shoot that trainer," a cashier muttered, pouring coffee. "Old vet's gone rogue," another scoffed, scrolling his phone. James, the quiet man in the faded jacket, was now a villain in their story. Nobody knew he'd once cradled a rifle that saved lives halfway across the world. His trailer, tucked near the woods, stood silent, no visitors, just a flag fluttering in the breeze. Neighbors avoided him, spooked by his dawn walks, boots clicking like a metronome. "He's off," they'd say, assuming PTSD or worse. The local paper ran a headline: "Ex-Marine's threat sparks trial." No one dug deeper. In the courtroom, the air grew heavier. The prosecutor, Harper, laid it on thick, calling James a ticking time bomb. The jury shifted, some scribbling notes, others staring at James' unmoving face. His lawyer, Jake, fumbled through objections, outmatched. A witness, the gas station clerk, claimed James had a killer's stare. The crowd murmured, eating it up. James sat, cuffs tight, gaze locked on the floor, as if he were back in a desert, waiting for a signal.
Outside, the townspeople's quickened reporters set up cameras, hoping for a juicy soundbite.
Unstable vet, they prepped to say. No one noticed the black SUV idling in the lot, its tinted windows hiding a man whose uniform gleamed with 4 silver stars. General Robert Hayes, retired, stepped out, face grim, stride steady.
He wasn't here for headlines.
He was here for James, carrying a debt unpaid, a story untold, ready to crack this small-town trial wide open. The courtroom's clock ticked like a heartbeat, each second tightening the tension. James Carter sat, cuffs glinting, his face a mask of calm that unnerved the jury. The prosecutor, Harper, strutted like a peacock, spinning a tale of a bitter veteran terrorizing the town. James Carter thinks he's above the law, he sneered, pointing at the silent man. The trainer, Mike, milked his moment, neck brace gleaming under lights. He said he could drop me from 800 yards, Mike whined, voice cracking for effect.
The jury ate it up, some nodding, others whispering, he's dangerous. A gas station clerk testified next, nervous, claiming James' stare felt like death. Harper grinned, sensing victory.
Jake, the defense lawyer, stammered, out of his depth, begging James, give me something.
But James stayed mute, eyes tracing the courtroom's flag, its stripes worn but proud.
Outside, the town buzzed, reporters typed furiously, locals swapped rumors over burgers. He's unhinged, they agreed, blind to James' past. His trailer, a lonely speck by the woods, held secrets, medals tucked in a drawer, a life of service no one asked about. The judge, Ms. Harrow, banged her gavel, silencing the chatter. Proceed, she said, voice tight, sensing something off.
The jury leaned forward, ready to judge a man they didn't know. No one saw the black SUV parked discreetly, its driver waiting.
General Robert Hayes, for stars gleaming, checked his watch. He'd known James for decades, owed him his life. The courtroom didn't know it yet, but a storm was coming, not of anger, but of truth. Hayes stepped out, uniform crisp, ready to walk through those doors and rewrite this trial story with words no one could ignore. The courtroom's air grew thick, like a storm about to break. James Carter sat motionless, cuffs cold against his wrists, his silence louder than the prosecutor's accusations.
Harper paced, voice rising, this man's a threat, hiding behind a soldier's past. The jury nodded, swayed by the trainer's theatrics and the clerk's shaky testimony. Whispers of unstable vet rippled through the gallery.
Jake, the defense lawyer, slumped, out of moves, muttering, James, you're killing me. But James' eyes stayed fixed, not on Harper, but on a memory, a desert, a rifle, a life saved. Outside, the town churned with gossip, reporters prepping troubled veteran headlines. No one knew James' trailer held a Bronze Star, earned in silence, like everything else. The judge, Ms. Harrow, tapped her pen, uneasy, sensing a gap in the story. Then the doors swung open.
A hush fell. Cameras clicked.
General Robert Hayes strode in, 4 silver stars glinting on his shoulders, uniform sharp as a blade. The bailiffs froze, the clerk stood straighter. Harper's smirk vanished.
Ms. Harrow rose, not out of protocol, but instinct.
General, she asked, voice trembling.
Hayes didn't look at her.
His eyes locked on James, who finally lifted his gaze. No words, just recognition, a bond forged in chaos. The gallery buzzed, confused. Who's that? A reporter hissed.
Hayes stepped forward, voice low but commanding.
I'm here for James Carter, he said.
The room stilled. He doesn't know I came. He'd probably wish I hadn't. Harper paled, sensing his case crumbling.
The jury leaned in, eyes wide. Outside, the SUV waited, its driver oblivious to the seismic shift inside. Hayes turned to the judge.
May I speak? She nodded.
A truth was coming, one that would unravel this trial and rewrite James' story. General Robert Hayes stood tall, his 4 stars gleaming under the courtroom's dim lights.
James Carter met his gaze, a flicker of surprise breaking his stoic mask.
The jury sat frozen, pencils down, as whispers died. I owe this man my life, Hayes began, voice steady but heavy. The prosecutor, Harper, gripped his pen, face pale. The judge, Ms. Harrow, leaned forward, gavel untouched. Hayes turned to the jury. 30 years ago, outside Fallujah, my squad was pinned down.
No comms, no hope. Enemy fire everywhere.
Then a sniper cleared a path, 10 shots, 10 kills, under 4 minutes.
The last?
A moving target, 920 yards, through a sandstorm.
He paused, eyes on James. That sniper was James Carter. Gasps rippled through the room. Reporters scrambled, cameras flashing. Harper sank into his chair. The trainer's neck brace looked absurd now. James never spoke of it, Hayes continued. Not for medals, not for glory. That's who he is.
The jury shifted, some wiping eyes, others staring at James, who looked away, uncomfortable with the spotlight. Outside, the town's gossip paused, diners hushed, phones forgotten.
Hayes' voice softened. I read the charges. A threat? From a man who saved dozens without a word? He's no threat. He's a hero.
The gallery murmured, locals rethinking their crazy vet label. Jake, the lawyer, sat stunned, finally understanding James' silence.
MS. Harrow cleared her throat. General, why now?
Hayes looked at James, almost apologetic.
Because he'd never asked me to come.
But I heard, and I couldn't stay silent.
The room felt smaller, the weight of truth pressing in. Hayes faced the jury again.
You don't judge a man like James Carter.
You honor him.
The air crackled, waiting for the next move. As James passed reshaped the trial, the courtroom held its breath as General Hayes' words hung in the air. James Carter sat, cuffs glinting, his eyes now on the floor, avoiding the jury's stares. The prosecutor, Harper, slumped, his smugness gone. The judge, Ms. Harrow, gripped her gavel, moved but silent.
Then, Hayes did the unthinkable.
He dropped to one knee before James, not in show, but in reverence.
Gasps echoed.
A reporter's pen fell. The jury froze, some tearing up.
James, Hayes said softly, I never thanked you.
The room felt sacred, like a truth long buried had surfaced. James shifted, uncomfortable, his stoic mask cracking.
He'd never sought this, never wanted it.
The gallery watched, stunned, as a four-star general humbled himself before a man they'd called a threat.
Outside, the town's chatter stopped, diners paused, reporters typed frantically. Hayes rose, turning to the jury.
This man saved me, saved my men, and never asked for a medal.
His silence isn't guilt, it's sacrifice. The trainer, Mike, shrank in his seat, neck brace now a joke.
Jake, the lawyer, stared at James, finally seeing the hero. Ms. Harrow's voice broke the silence.
General, is there more? Hayes nodded.
He's tired of being misjudged, of carrying a war no one sees.
Don't chain him for words said in a moment. Honor him for a lifetime.
The jury whispered, some nodding, others wiping eyes. James' trailer, with its flag and worn boots, seemed a world away, yet it loomed in every mind. The truth had shifted everything. Hayes looked at James, a silent apology in his eyes. James gave a slight nod, the first sign he'd heard it all. The courtroom waited, electric with anticipation, as Miss Harrow raised her gavel, ready to decide James' fate with a single strike. The courtroom pulsed with tension, General Hayes' kneel still burning in everyone's minds. James Carter sat, cuffs heavy, his gaze steady but distant, like he was back in a war zone, not a small-town trial. The jury, faces soft with awe, clutched their notes. The prosecutor, Harper, stared at his shoes, his case in ruins. Judge Harrow's gavel hovered, her eyes flickering between James and Hayes. The gallery held its breath, locals, reporters, even the trainer, Mike, now silent, his neck brace absurd. In light of this testimony, Harrow began, voice firm but shaken, I must reconsider. She paused, glancing at James, who hadn't moved, his silence louder than any defense. Outside, the town stood still, diners empty, phones down, as word of a general's arrival spread like wildfire. Hayes stood tall, for stars gleaming, his presence a weight no one could ignore. James Carter isn't a threat, he'd said, and the words echoed in every heart. Jake, the lawyer, finally exhaled, seeing his client anew. Harrow cleared her throat. All charges are dismissed, effective immediately. The gavel struck. The room erupted, not in cheers, but in reverence.
Cuffs clicked open, falling from James' wrists. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just stood, his gait steady as ever. The jury watched, some crying, others nodding. Harper slunk out, defeated. Hayes stepped closer, offering a hand. James took it, their grip brief but heavy with history. The gallery parted as James walked out, free, his shadow long in the fading light. Outside, veterans lined the street, saluting silently. Reporters scrambled, but James ignored them, his boots echoing on the pavement. The town's gossip would change now, but James didn't care. He'd never sought their praise, only their memory. James Carter stepped into the fading sunlight, his boots clicking on the courthouse steps. The cuffs were gone, but the weight of years lingered in his steady gait. Veterans stood in a silent line, saluting, their eyes reflecting respect, not pity. James nodded, a flicker of acknowledgement, but said nothing. He never needed words. The town, once quick to judge, watched in hushed awe. Reporters swarmed, microphones thrusting forward, but James walked past, his gaze fixed on the horizon. General Hayes followed a step behind, his 4 stars dimmed by the man he'd honored. The black SUV waited, but James didn't glance at it. His trailer, with its tattered flag and worn boots, called him home. Locals gathered, their whispers now soft, regretful. "We didn't know," a diner owner muttered, shaking his head. The crazy vet label was gone, replaced by a story spreading faster than gossip. Jake, the lawyer, stood on the steps, stunned but proud, clutching James' file. The judge, Ms. Harrow, watched from her chambers, her gavel still, her perspective shifted. The trainer, Mike, slipped away, neck brace abandoned, his story forgotten. Outside, kids on bikes paused, sensing something bigger than their small town. James' life, medals hidden, sacrifices buried, had surfaced, not by his choice, but by truth's insistence. Hayes caught up, placing a hand on James' shoulder. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. James gave a faint nod, his first real response. The town's main street stretched ahead, diners glowing, life resuming. But James felt different. Free, not just from charges, but from the burden of being unseen. His silence had spoken, carried by a general's voice. Now, the world would remember, not judge, the sniper who'd given everything and asked for nothing. James Carter walked through the town's quiet streets, the sunset casting long shadows. His boots, worn but proud, echoed softly, each step a testament to battles fought and burdens carried. The veteran's salutes lingered in his mind, but he sought no applause. His trailer waited, its flag fluttering, a silent witness to his life. The town was different now, diners buzzed with stories of the sniper who saved a general. Reporters chased new headlines, hero misjudged, freed. Locals, once quick to whisper unstable, now nodded with respect. General Hayes had returned to his world, but his words stayed, etched in the town's memory. James' medals, still hidden, didn't need display, his silence spoke louder. At the courthouse, Judge Harrow reflected, her gavel heavy with the weight of justice served. Jake, the lawyer, kept James' file, a reminder of the man who needed no defense but deserved it. The trainer, Mike, faded into obscurity, his lies exposed. The jury, changed forever, shared James' story over coffee, some vowing to honor veterans better. Outside, the town's rhythm resumed, kids on bikes, diner lights glowing, but James' walk felt lighter, unburdened by misjudgment. He'd never asked for recognition, only hoped someone might remember what he gave. Hayes had ensured they would. As James reached his trailer, he paused, touching the flag. For the first time in years, he felt whole. This wasn't about a trial, it was about truth prevailing. Heroes don't always wear uniforms or seek praise, they carry on, silently strong. Now it's your turn. Know someone whose quiet sacrifices deserve light? Share their story below. Let's make sure honor isn't buried by silence. Let's remember the James Carters among us, whose courage shapes our world without asking for a spotlight.